Coming up on today's episode.
There were a lot of fights. There was a lot of fear, and it just kept getting worse and worse and worse until I started learning breath work, and it just helped me get through some of those really hard days. Just being able to sit down and do some daily practices, just a few minutes a day even, could get me to just a point where I could function and move forward.
Dating is one of those things where people, because of their traumas, even if they've healed, it will trigger something for them.
Yeah.
So Hi everyone. I'm recording this little intro bit without the video. So if you are watching on YouTube and it's just all of a sudden a blank screen, that's why. There is no malfunction. It's just me not wanting to show my face, because a lot of the time I do introductions after the person has been on the podcast. And so today I have a really special guest joining me, someone whose work goes straight to the root of what so many of us need when it comes to healing from toxic relationships and nervous system dysregulation. Her name is Jana McKinney. She is the founder of Get Living Breathwork, and she is the creator of the Breathwork Living Facilitator program. Jana's journey is really powerful, and you will hear in the episode how much breathwork has helped her heal, and also what the ripple effect of that has been, not only on her own life and the life of her children, but worldwide with all of the people that train with her. So I am very, very excited to introduce you to today's episode. Hi, Jana.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
I'm so excited to be here, and I'm very grateful that you asked me to be.
Yes. Even though I didn't actually warn you that you was going to be on video, so I apologize.
That's okay. Surprise.
So do you want to tell the world about what you do?
I sure do. So I am a breathwork facilitator, and I don't just facilitate breath sessions. I actually certify other breathwork facilitators to turn breathwork into a career. So I have a certification program that's online, and I've had hundreds of students go through it, and it's just the best job ever, because I get to watch people not only transform their lives physically, mentally, and spiritually, but also financially as they shift into a career that lights them up and that they're passionate about.
So how did you get into breathwork?
Oh, it's a good question. So I was a health coach and personal trainer for a long time, and I started naturally leaning into more alternative things, or not alternative, but holistic things for my clients for their own health and mental capacity. Even though we were focusing on like physical stuff, I noticed that if we worked on meditation and journaling, they were getting better results. And then I found a yoga guru who trained in India, and everything was about the breath. We were doing specific pranayamas, which are like breath techniques during yoga, and kriyas, that I just felt so amazing during those classes that I started researching, because I have a background in physiology. I, of course, geeked out on like, okay, what's happening in the body? Why does these breaths make me feel so much better than just the meditation and the yoga that she's doing? And I just fell head over heels in love with breath once I dove into this physiology a little more. And so then I got certified in multiple techniques, because there's not just one type for everyone. Like, everyone needs something different. So I just dove in and started using it with my clients, and their results went way better. They were losing more weight. They were happier. They were healthier. They were totally changing their lives. And it was because of the breath. And so I shifted from the health coaching and personal training to now we just do breath full time.
That's cool. And
Yeah.
I think like it can help with pretty much anything because my background is in criminal justice. And so I used to work with people that had been in prison. And one of the techniques that we would actually use to help them manage their anger and manage their emotions was using breath work. Because there is a lot of research, there's a lot of studies, theories around how that can regulate you. And so you obviously saw big results with your clients, and my previous clients were on the other end of the scale in terms of everything really. And I saw results with them.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what got me into thinking, oh, is breathwork something?
Yeah. And it is, like you just said, it can help with, I'm not sure if you said everything or so many more things, but it can, because our breath is in control of our nervous system. They're completely tied together. And if our nervous system isn't working well, then all functions of the body start to go haywire, including mental health, like you said, anger and addictions and things like that. And so it's a physical, it's a mental, and it's a spiritual thing. And so when we start to control our nervous system with our breath, we start to heal all aspects of the body, mind, and spirit.
Wow.
Yeah. So it can be used in so many different niches, like you said, the criminal justice,
Yeah.
health and fitness. It can be used with babies. It can be used in addiction recovery. It can be used to help your relationships. It can help your sleep. There are endless paths when we talk about using breath work in like a career or a niche or just to help your life.
And so obviously you came on here to talk about how breathwork can help regulate your nervous system. And anyone that listens to this podcast will know that I bang on about nervous system regulation all the time. And all my clients are like, again with the nervous system. But it's so important because it obviously shapes most of our choices and a lot of things that happen within our life is around that. So if someone was starting off with trying to regulate the nervous system using breath, where would you kind of point them in the direction?
Yeah. So I look at breath work that there's 3 to 4 different types of breath work. And the very most important one is where you need to start, like you just barely asked. And that would be just breath awareness, knowing if you're breathing correctly and then learning to breathe correctly and noticing where in life you shift out of breathing that proper way. And so if you think about it, if you're breathing 20,000 breaths per day, that's like the average, 20,000 breaths per day, and every single one of those is improper or dysfunctional. Maybe it's getting too much oxygen. Maybe it's breathing the dynamics, whether you're breathing into your chest or your belly, or if you're breathing through your mouth instead of your nose. All of that stuff matters, and it actually makes a huge difference to your nervous system. And so if you can correct just the way you breathe during the day, that's correcting it 20,000 times. So it makes a huge difference in your health and your happiness by just learning to breathe the right way. And so you don't even have to spend a bunch of time going to sessions and doing the daily practices, which I can also tell you about. But just the biggest thing that I've seen shift people is just learning to breathe correctly.
And I put you on the spot now. Can you give us an example?
Of course. It's what I love to do. I was just waiting for you to ask me.
Well, you do teach people how to teach this. So, yeah.
It's not putting me on the spot. I'm like, yes. So, yeah, there's some tests we can do to see if you're not breathing correctly, but the simplest one without, pulling out the stopwatch and everything is to just put your one hand on your chest, one hand on your belly, and then take a big deep breath in. Let it out. Now, when you took that breath, did you notice if your top hand moved more or your bottom hand moved more? Do it again.
It was
A lot of
I think-
people, their top hand will move more, or you'll see their shoulders move up.
yeah. So
What did you
I
sound?
would have said that it was like balanced, except the top was slightly more than the bottom. But
Yeah.
I don't know, because I do obviously do breath work. So, and
Yeah, so you're
my
already
PT
practiced in this.
but my PT is constantly saying to me as well about controlling my breathing, because when you do breath work, it's a different kind of breathing to when you're like working out. And she will say to me, when I'm doing a plank, you are breathing out of your stomach and you need to stop because actually you're not engaging the core. And so I've been doing a lot of practice around that. But so most people, when they first start, it will be the top will be.
Everyone's different for sure, but there is a high number of people that are breathing into their chest. And when we do breathe with our chest being the most expansive space rather than the belly, it can put us in an anxious state. It actually kind of stunts our parasympathetic nervous system. The vagus nerve runs right through the diaphragm. And if we're not using the belly to breathe all day long, it's not stimulating that vagus nerve. And we want the vagus nerve to be stimulated because when it's stimulated, it goes, we calm down. So when we breathe through our chest, we're more likely to be anxious and have anxiety. And so then the other thing that I was going to say is, did you breathe through your nose or your mouth? Because the nose is more calming. Yeah, I noticed you did breathe through your nose. But people that breathe through their mouth, that can lead to a whole bunch of anxiety, depression, even ADHD has been linked to mouth breathing, and it really messes up your sleep. There's a whole bunch of science that goes into it, and I'm happy to share that. And I'm doing like a Breathwork 101 class where I go deeper into that if anyone's interested. But we want to be breathing through our nose, in and out. We want to be directing that air down into our belly so our belly feels like it's extending, kind of like you're blowing up a balloon. All the air is going into the lower parts of your lungs so that it makes your belly stick out. And so then the next thing is the pattern of the breath. So we just talked about mechanics, right? But now how you breathe, how fast you breathe matters. So you're going to be breathing in really slow through the nose for about a count of 5. So if we go in, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now exhale slowly through your nose. 2, 3, 4, 5. You do a slight pause and then start over. In, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, no. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Pause. Let's keep going. In, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Pause. So that's proper breathing. Nice and slow. I call it slow and low. The slower you breathe, it's actually really calming your nervous system down. And they've been able to show on a continuum line that animals and humans that breathe less per minute have longer lives. It really increases how long you live and the quality of your life. So let's slow it down. Yeah,
And
so that's
I
proper
actually
breathing.
feel calmer. So,
And we just did like three breaths.
3. Yeah. Yeah. And interesting. This is like off topic a little bit, but the ADHD thing. My son has ADHD, and so I'm now going to go and do a lot of research. Obviously, I'm going to be in your Breathwork 101 anyway. So I will be there. So anyone that's listening, I will put the link down below anyway, but you will see my lovely face as well as Janice.
Yay! Yay! I'm excited that you're coming.
Yeah.
But yeah, do some research on the ADHD and mouth breathing and just notice, like, watch him. Is he breathing through his mouth during the day? If people that sing and talk a lot, they end up breathing through their mouth just to be able to get some air in between the words. So even when I talk, I catch myself. I'm like, close my mouth, breathe through my nose, because I don't want the long-term effects that come from breathing through my mouth. But I had a child who was severe ADHD, and he was a mouth breather, and we didn't tie it together because it was kind of before I was really heavy into breath work and the education there. But he went to the orthodontist and they did a spreader where they spread his palate because they said that an insurance paid for it because they said it wasn't good for his health to have such a narrow top palate. And since he's had that opened, he's not mouth breathing, and the ADHD is like, I think there's still maybe a little, but severely different. Like, he is so much more on top of his like impulse control and friendships and things like that were a struggle are now not a struggle anymore. So it's fun to see your kids grow and shift. And I'm so grateful that the doctors knew to spread his palate so he could breathe.
Wow. And that isn't something that people would think about.
It's not. And there's a few books, and I've seen some Instagram pages that specifically talk about that for children. So, do some research. You'll find it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Sam. Let me guess. You keep finding yourself in the same relationship cycles, wrong partners, missed red flags, and a love life that feels harder than it should. That is exactly why I created the Aligned Love Live, my 12-week group coaching program where we uncover the roots of your dating patterns, rewire your mindset and nervous system for healthy love, and teach you how to spot red flags before they start to break your heart. You'll learn how to release the pain of your past, forgive yourself, communicate like you have never done before, and define the relationship that you actually deserve. Doors are opening soon, and the people who join the waitlist always get the best results because they're the ones who take action. So if you are ready to stop settling and finally attract the love that you deserve, join the waitlist today. The link is in the show notes below. So, how has breathwork helped you heal?
Oh my gosh. So much. So much. So, to share how it's helped me heal, I have to kind of go back and give you some context where I used to be married, had my 4 darling children. We were very in a religion that was very, had certain things that we do. And the relationship that I was in, my marriage, was very toxic. There was a lot of control financially, and just like, I'm trying to word it very carefully, but it was not as liberating and free as I would have, my nervous system wanted to be. And I didn't know any better because I grew up in a very controlled environment. Not so much just my family or anything, just the culture. And so I thought a lot of it was normal, but there was a lot of control. There were a lot of fights. There was a lot of fear, and it just kept getting worse and worse and worse until finally I chose out of this relationship, and it turned to a lot of abuse. Like, it got really ugly really fast. So much so that I ended up with concussions and police reports and things like that. And so I felt at that point very broken. Like I couldn't see a future of like, what is my future? I don't have a job. I don't know how to now take care of my kids because I don't feel safe for them being with their dad all the time. But I also don't know how to take care of them financially and be the mom and do all the things that I now needed to do in this broken state. That's just like the best word I can say. I just felt very incapable of most things because of the trauma that happened in a short time there. And so about that same time is when I found, like I said earlier, that yoga that was teaching me how to breathe. And I started doing the research and started learning breath work. And it just helped me get through some of those really hard days, just being able to sit down and do some daily practices, just a few minutes a day even, could get me to just a point where I could function and move forward. And then after a few weeks, I found another form of breath work that is, I call breathwork journeys, where you lay down and do a specific breath for like 45 minutes to an hour and a half, and it puts you in an altered state of consciousness. And it's much like doing a plant medicine journey or, ayahuasca, psilocybin, all of those types of therapies, but it's totally natural. It was just me and my breath. But what it did is it helped me rewire my brain. It helped me see what was happening from like a further perspective and take insights and lessons and like opportunity out of the problem. Instead of just being like me, poor victim, me, it turned it into, cool, how can I turn this into something that betters my life and my children's life? And from there on, doing those journeys, healing that trauma, because it allows you to kind of bring up emotions that you've been stuffing inside. It allowed me to let go and release the tension in my body, which therefore healed my nervous system as well. And I, in a very short time, went from that victim mentality to victor. And my life just kept getting better and better and better and better. And, I, in a short time, got to where I was just thriving. And me being able to heal my nervous system and find happiness within myself, it like wore off on my children. I tried putting them in therapy in the early days and they didn't love it and it didn't last long. But I noticed the biggest shift in them and their healing as I did my healing, and they could just co-regulate with me. So yeah, it's helped me in so many ways. I can't even put it all into one paragraph.
Well, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
And that is a beautiful story. And just well done in a sense that, I have also been in a very toxic relationship, which led me onto this path as well. And so hearing your story, I'm like, oh, she's just telling my story. And I seem to attract a lot of people like that into my world because you just get it.
Mm-hmm.
But it is hard. And going through tough times is hard. And I always say to people that you've had trauma and you need to find a way to move through it and then past it, else it's just going to stay within you. And it's funny that you say about you being broken, because I was broken at one point, and like you, I started doing healing practices and my life just got better and better and better. And not just in kind of the way that I was feeling, everything just kind of starts to make sense. So again, my children, I would say my daughter is like my longest running client, because she's 16. And any boys that have kind of come along, they do like one unacceptable thing and she's like, I'm done with you. So, and then she just is like, right, I'm just gonna sit with myself and I'm gonna grieve basically that, but I don't accept unacceptable behavior. And that's the kind of the ripple effect, isn't it? Where you start to do these things for yourself and then you start to help other people and your life starts to get better. Your finances tend to get better randomly. And, and that's obviously the same with you. And now you get to teach other people how to do that as well.
Yes. Yes. And that's the best part is like when you can take your path, your story, your lessons and use them to help others to make their path lighter is huge. It's so rewarding. And that's one of the things I love about being a breathwork facilitator the most is being able to lift other people up. Because had I not found that, the yoga with the breathwork in it at the time I did, I honestly, who knows what would have happened to me. I have a soft spot in my heart for people that have been through domestic violence. And so I do a fundraiser and, kind of work with a lot of people in that area. And I just see over and over again, people that didn't have that support, that didn't have the tools and how their life, because of this traumatic event or something that happened, their life continued to downward spiral. Their health started to decline. And because their health started to decline, they lost their job. And because they lost their job, they lost their housing. Because they lost their housing, they lost their kids to the abuser. Like this pattern happens all the time in some of these toxic relationships. And I see it as because they didn't have the help and support in a traumatic experience. And, they say with trauma, it's not the event that happens. It's the tools and support I guess it's the lack of tools and support during that event. And so somebody that has the exact same thing happen that I had happen and didn't have any tools can get to a point that it's a lot harder to come back from. But because I had the tools and support, I was able to rise up. And that's what I want to be for others. And I love being able to see my students become facilitators and then go and do that same thing. And so I always say, I just want this army of breathwork facilitators who are just sharing healing and a light for anybody that needs it, whatever stage of life they're in.
Is that is the ripple effect of that. You show people how to be a facilitator and then they go and help more people and it's just a wave of people that are supported. And you are absolutely right. There are some people that just don't have that support and it is a spiral. And anything that I think, this is not just me and you, any person listening to this, if you can make one little bit of difference to someone whose life isn't going well, then that is actually probably your path into your life getting better anyway, because the more that you give, the better you feel, the more confident you get, and then your life starts to get great too.
Yeah. Yes, I love that. I love that reminder and really a call to everyone who listens. It's like there is always something small you can do to help someone. And instead of just saying hey, let me know if you need help, it's like, well, maybe you can do something as small as bring you a little treat or just say, hey, I care. I'm here to listen. Or, there's so many other different things you can do, but every little thing helps when somebody's struggling.
Yeah.
So that's such a beautiful reminder. And that's why you're things like this too, your podcast, because people can stumble upon it as well. And the same way I stumbled upon the yoga class I went to, it's not like we have it's just when we're putting the good and the healing and the help out there, someone will find it when they most need it. So thanks for doing what you do.
Oh, well, Thanks. Yeah. I stumbled upon this as well. So I was just reading because I'd gone back to university to retrain because I realized that I was quite good at motivating people, talking to people. And I was retraining, and I was sat there learning about what a healthy relationship was, because the job that I was going to go into was going to be helping people that had committed domestic violence offences not to do that. So teaching them the skills that they just never learn. And I sat there and I was, learning all this stuff, and I suddenly thought, this is my relationship. Like, I'm not in a healthy relationship. And so that started the ripple effect to change everything for me. But it was something that I fell into in wanting to prevent more victims, is why I got into it, why I was like, I'm going to retrain, because actually, if I can motivate one prisoner to not commit another offense, then that is saving people.
Yeah.
And
the huge ripple effect that affects that whole life line after that.
Yeah.
Non-victim that doesn't have to ever happen.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
But in turn, it changed my whole life as well. So, yeah.
It's so cool.
I was even talked about breathwork and the nervous system. If someone was going to start going and starting to date again, a lot of the time when most people start to date, even if they've been through a bit of a healing journey and they've healed themselves, still things do come up. Things come up all the time. I was talking to someone else today. This wasn't to do with dating, but this was to do with me and the way that I think. In that, I had been posting on TikTok, and I saw, because obviously you can see who views your TikToks, right? And I saw that one of my ex-husband's family members had been watching my TikToks. And it sent me into a bit of a, I don't know, craziness, I suppose, where I was like, I can't post on TikTok anymore. Yeah. And it really kind of set me back. And so I spent like 3 days sitting with myself going, you are safe. These people can't hurt you anymore. So what if they looked at your TikTok? And I'm very much, not the same as my former self. I've done a lot of work on myself, but every so often there can be little things that will trigger you. I have started posting on TikTok again because I was just like, whatever. But dating is one of those things where people, because of their traumas, even if they've healed, it will trigger something for them.
Yeah.
So what would you say to do?
So for sure, I feel like even when, like you're saying, you do a ton of healing work, you won't do the healing in the depth you need to until you start dating again. Like if you're healing relationship trauma or something that happened in a past relationship, it's not going to be brought up to the level that you fully need to heal it until you're back in a relationship. So just like with your example of seeing that ex-family member on your TikTok, your body will go into fight or flight. You'll feel your heart race. You'll start sweating. You might even start crying and you're like, I thought I healed this, right? And logically, your brain's telling you, like you said, I am safe. They can't hurt me. But you have that physical remembrance of the past. And, they say there's like explicit memory where you can like consciously remember things, But then there's a whole nother part memory that's happened somatically where our body will remember. Even if you can't put a thought or a memory to it, all of a sudden you're like, why is my heart racing? Why is this uncomfortable for me? And even if your logic brain is telling you, no, you are safe. So healing that somatic part of you is key and so helpful. So the first thing that I would say to do is to take 10 minutes to breathe, because the fight or flight system, it gets turned on in a split second, less than a second. All things are firing so fast, but it takes 10 minutes for our parasympathetic system, which is the calm, the rest and digest, to get on board. So a lot of people will say, just breathe. And you're like, okay, I breathed 3 times and it didn't help. I quit. I'm going to go back to panicking.
I don't feel any better.
Yeah, I don't feel any better. I tried it. And we have to give it 10 minutes because that's how long it takes for the parasympathetic system to fully get on board and shut down the sympathetic. So I seriously is like, look at the clock and be like, I'm going to breathe for 10 minutes. And that's okay for me to do. And so just like I showed you that proper breathing, that's the easiest place to start. In that Breathwork 101 class that I have coming up this Thursday, we learn quite a few other techniques, but the simplest one is to really just slow your breathing down and make sure it's through the nose. Using that belly to really extend and then back out through the nose. Because there's actual nerve bundles in our nose, like, does it clear my throat? Right inside our nostrils, there's nerve bundles that when we breathe in, it stimulates them and turns on different parts of our brain. So it's really important to just sit and breathe through the nose as slow as you can. And then plus, how I talked about the belly, making sure you're really extending that belly, like exaggerate it in those moments that you're feeling super stressed. You can exaggerate and push that belly as much as you can with the breath to extend it. And that's going to stimulate that vagus nerve. And if you need even more than that, then you can start pursing your lips and blow a really slow exhale out. So it's going to look like this. You're going to go. And then purse your lips. Because you'll notice when we purse our lips, it's like makes the air come out slower. And so you can extend that exhale for a lot longer. And the longer we exhale, the more calming the breath is. So if you can really slow it down by pursing your lips, it does counteract, how I talk about you want to be exhaling through the nose. It's like, okay, but if you need more, purse your lips and exhale through the mouth. Yeah.
I love that.
And then when that timer has reached 10 minutes, you can be like, can I function again? Yeah, I can. That was great. Because if not, if we just continued on with the panic and didn't take those 10 minutes to breathe, we probably could have wasted hours and hours throughout the day just spiraling in our head or making mistakes in our work or whatever we're trying to do because we're in fight or flight. I know when I used to, after a lot of the stuff happened in my relationship, even though I was safe, I was distant, there was a protective order, all of that stuff, I would get a text from him or his mom or, someone in that family, and it would ruin my whole day. Like I would forget to pick my kids up from school. I was messing up at work. And so learning to just take those 10 minutes will help get you back in so you actually are functional and not wasting the time. So people will say, I don't have 10 minutes. It's like, you don't have, the rest of your day is what you don't have. Like, let's take this 10 minutes so that you can function the rest of the day.
Yeah. I love that. And you have just proven my point that 2 of my clients last week, we had a very similar conversation where they were talking about when they're getting texts from new people that they are dating and how some of the stuff, they're like, I don't know how to respond. I don't know what to do. And I said to them, step away from the phone, go and sit with yourself, calm yourself down, and then go back to it. And they were like, yeah, but they can see that I've read it. And I was like, it doesn't matter. If they cannot give you 10 minutes of the day to do whatever, then they're not your person anyway, because your life is busy. So, I know that they do tend to listen. So yes, Jana has just proved my point.
Yes, I think that's such great advice. If you kept get rid of the butterflies, get rid of all of that, take the 10 minutes to breathe.
Yeah.
And also, why are your red receipts on? Turn off the red receipts so that they don't know that you've seen it. And I love that you're emphasizing too the boundaries of it's okay, I can take 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I love that.
Life, I don't message my husband back straight away. Sometimes I don't answer the phone to him because I'm in the middle of something. So, and that's real life relationships, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Where you have to accept that other people are busy.
Yeah.
So,
exactly. Yeah. And that kind of that brought up some things that I learned with the breath when I started dating again after I took a little bit of time off after the toxic one. And I found an amazing human who just thought I was the world and was so sweet to me. Yet I had a hard time because of just like you're talking about, these little triggers would come up and I'd be like, well, what if he's going to act like my ex? What if this is going to happen? What if that is going to happen? And I would take those 10 minutes, anytime it would come up, breathe on it for a few minutes, 10. And then the clarity would come to me of this is your past speaking. This is your wound speaking. Let's look at this man's patterns and, what you're seeing in the present moment with this person. Okay, this is good for you, And so I was able to use the breath to help myself lean into a healthy relationship and not let those triggers of what if from my old relationship ruin something that was actually really beautiful.
Yeah.
So.
And because I will always say, where is the evidence for this? And so if someone has taken 10 minutes to sit and breathe and getting out of the fight, flight, or freeze response, then they can actually, with a clear head, where is the evidence that this person is the same as my ex? And actually, then when you're thinking in your kind of your logical brain, you can see that there actually isn't any evidence, or there is.
Or there is.
Yeah. But it just gives you the time to actually be able to think properly.
Yeah. When we're in fight or flight, when we're in a stress state, our brain is in the limbic mode, which is all about survival and emotion. And it is not in this frontal cortex where we're actually looking at things logically. So it's scientific proof. And there's so many studies to show that. It's you've got to get out of fight or flight so that you can look at things with a clear perspective. And just like you said, then you can look at that evidence. But if you're in fight or flight and you're just this happened, this little trigger happened, he looked at me wrong, or he tied his shoe the wrong way, right? There's all the weird triggers. Then you're not able to even look at the evidence because you're going to keep looking at all the little things that don't make sense. And so we got to slow it down, get into that prefrontal cortex, and then it makes a lot more sense and everything's clear.
Love that.
Yeah, love it.
So I'm going to let you go because I know that you have other appointments today.
I know, I could talk forever. There's so many more things to share.
Yeah. Well, I would happily have you come back on again. So we'll arrange that.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And I'd love to be able to share some of this, like, ways you can use those journeys to help release some of those old stories as well. So there's so much more we can go into. I love it. Thanks for having me, Sam.
That's okay. And so your Breathwork 101 is starting on Thursday. For my UK listeners, it is a 6 o'clock our time, one. And then there is one that's later on, which for us it's at like 1 a.m. So I don't think that any of my UK people will be listening. But for my US listeners, I feel like that might be like 5 o'clock your time.
Yeah, it depends on where they're at. So I've got an 11 a.m., which is Mountain Standard Time. For people that are on the East Coast, that's like 9 a.m. And then 6 p.m. Mountain Time, which is like 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So I have students from all over the world, so I have to do 2 times of the day to make sure we get as many people live, because that live container is so good. And the replays and recordings are awesome too if you can't make it live, but I try to make it available for you.
Yeah, no, I love that. So I will put the link to that down below. And if you're watching on YouTube, it will be in the description. And thank you so much for coming on.
Yes, thank you, Sam. I so appreciate it. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. How amazing was that episode? I cannot wait to get Jana on again to talk more about how the breath just changes everything. And so if you have enjoyed this episode, don't forget that her 3-part live starts on Thursday. There are various different times. I will put the link in the show notes, or if you're watching on YouTube, it'll be in the description. I will be there. You will see my face as well, which obviously will be amazing for you. And if you have really, really enjoyed this episode, I would absolutely appreciate it if you could share this far and wide. My episodes are listened to by some of the most special people, and I know that because I get emails back from you talking about how much you've enjoyed the episode. And so, in coherence with what the whole episode was about and the ripple effect, go and share this episode with somebody else who will take as much from it as I have, and you have, hopefully. That's it. I'm Sam Morris, and I will see you in the next episode.